Welcome everyone,
Tere tulemast kõikidele.
and thanks for coming. Nice to see you.
Tänan, et olete tulnud, teiega meeldib näha.
We're going to go ahead and jump right in.
Ja me alustame.
Last time and the time before, I've shown you some places where you can get the video on the internet.
Eelmisel korral ja eelnevatel kordadel ma olen näidanud, kust on võimalik näha videosalvestust.
I don't think I mentioned if you use Google+, it's also on Google+.
Ja võib-olla ei ole veel maininud, et ka Google Plusist on võimalik seda
YouTube
näha.
and Facebook.
Muidugi YouTube'ist ja Facebookist.
And then I highly recommend, if you don't already know about it, or if you don't have a family Bible or have access to a Bible to read,
Ja ma soovitan, kui teil ei ole endal piiblit või kuskilt piiblile ligipääsu,
then this is a great resource for studying the notes when you
siis
have it.
internetis on selline lehekülg, mida on hea kasutada.
Again, we're focusing on this part of the world, and we're going to go from Egypt.
Ja me keskendume sellele maailmajaole.
And today we're going to come into what the Jews call the Promised Land.
Ja täna me siis vaatame Egiptuse osa, mida juudid nimetavad tõotatuks maaks.
This is a fascinating period of their history.
See on üks huvitav osa nende ajaloost.
And the theme of entering in or returning
Ja see teema, mis siis puudutab sinna minemist või sealt tagasi tulekut,
continues to be echoed in Jewish history today.
on tänaseni üks räägitavaid teemasid juudi ajaloost täna.
So remember, in the first book of Moses,
Esimeses Moosese raamatus
this patriarch of the Jews, Abraham,
juutide esiisa Abraham,
he left Ur of the Chaldees, which is later Babylon,
lahkus Kaldeamaalt Urrist,
Babylonian Empire,
hilisemalt Babyloonia,
present day Iraq.
tänapäevane Iraak.
And he traveled to this land that he said God had told him that he should go there, and he was promised this land.
Ja ta rändas sinna maale, mille kohta Jumal oli talle öelnud, et see on tõotatud maaks talle ja ta peaks seal elama.
Then just very quickly, his grandson was named Israel.
Ja tema lapselapse nimeks pandi
Jacob or Israel. And his family, 12 sons and daughters, went to Egypt.
Tema pere 12 poega ning tütred läksid
They
Egiptusesse.
became slaves in Egypt.
Egiptuses said
They were there for a long time.
ja nad olid seal pikka
And
aega.
then one of their own descendants, Moses,
Ja üks nende järeltulijatest, Mooses,
became their deliverer and led them out of Egypt.
oli see, kellest sai nende päästja seal ja kes viis nad välja Egiptusest.
Last week, we didn't quite finish these last two slides. I just gave you a glimpse of it.
Eelmisel nädalal me ei jõudnud lõpetada seda teemat selle slaidil.
So in the second book of Moses called Exodus,
Teise Moosese raamatus
and also the third book,
ja samuti ka kolmandas
it speaks about God's law.
räägitakse Jumala seadusest.
And Moses is saying to these 3 million or more Jews what he says God has told him to tell them.
Ja Mooses siis ütleb 3 miljonile või enamale juudile, mida Jumal oli käskinud talle.
By the way, I spoke with one of you last week about the 10 plagues of Egypt. And
rääkisin eelmisel nädalal Iisraeli 10-st.
And I mentioned that each plague was a judgment against one of the gods of Egypt. And so this sheet is about that. If you want to know more, you can see me after the lesson.
Siis ja kuidas iga nuhtus oli teatud Egiptuse Jumala vastu.
And if you would help me to pass these out,
Siis hiljem on võimalik seda vaadata ja me jagame laiali need teemad.
If you need the English, this is the English, and the Estonian is separate.
Ja seal on nii ingliskeelne.
I jumped right in too quickly. If you need the notes from last week, then we have the notes here.
Kui sa saad saada eelmisest nädalast, siis siin on ka eelmise.
Does anyone want the notes from these last two slides from last week?
Kedagi, kes tahaks eelmise nädala märkmeid.
If you do, just raise your hand and
Kui sa
I'll
soovid, siis
send that around.
tõsta oma käsi ja ma saadan.
Sorry for the brief interruption here.
Ja vabandan katkestuse eest.
And last announcement.
ja viimane
If you
teadaanne,
want a copy of Linnaleht, you can take one from the back.
selle taga on võimalik Linnaleht
And here's the advertisement for
siis
the
ka Linnalehes on kuulutus.
Okay, so Moses has this amazing experience on this mountain.
Moosesel on see hämmastav kogemus sellel mäel.
The second book of Moses says in the text that
Teise
the
Moosese
people
raamatus ütleb kirja pandud, et rahvas
actually hear the voice of God, the thunderings and lightnings
rahvas kuulis Jumala häält
and fire burning the top of the mountain.
mäe tipus tuld
It's
ja
very dramatic, and they say, please, you go and talk with God. We don't want to be so afraid and die.
see oli väga hirmuäratav ning nad palusid Moosest, et tema läheks sinna mäetippu ja mitte nemad.
And so he comes back with the 10 commandments. Moses comes back.
Mooses tuleb mäelt tagasi 10 käsuga
And also the tabernacle plan.
ja samuti ka plaaniga koguduse telgi jaoks.
So this was a new way of worship.
Ja see oli uus viis ülistuseks.
And let me just go ahead and show all of the captions here.
Ja ma nüüd räägin natukene nendest asjadest.
Oh, sorry. And these are the different furnishings of the tabernacle and their significance.
Telgi mööblid ja erinevad esemed.
So this is how they would worship God while they traveled for 40 years in the wilderness.
Ja see on see, kuidas nad ülistasid Jumalat, kui nad 40 aastat kõrbes rändasid.
If the people broke the law,
Kui inimesed murdsid seadust,
they would bring what they called a sin offering.
siis nad tõid selle eest patuohvri.
And once a year,
Ja üks kord aastas
the whole nation would be represented by a sin offering.
toodi kogu rahva eest patuohver.
They would bring it to the high priest,
Ohver toodi ülempreestri
and the
kätte
priests would offer it on this altar
ja
of
preestrid
sacrifice.
ohverdasid selle ohvri siis altaril.
This was the place of death and the shedding of blood.
See oli koht, kus oli surm ja vere valamine.
It was this offering taking the place of judgment for the people.
Ja selle ohvri näol toimus kohtumõistmine rahva eest.
Now, you remember when they left Egypt, they put blood on the doorposts and the lintel of their homes.
Kui sa mäletad, siis kui Iisraeli rahvas lahkus Egiptusest, nad panid verd ukse piitadele
Yeah. And so this established the idea of a covering by blood.
Ja sellest sai
Protection.
siis selline sümboolne verega katmine, verega kaitse.
So the priest would go to the laver of water and he would wash.
Preester siis läks kõigepealt veeanuma juurde ja pesemisnõus.
Before entering the tabernacle itself.
Kui ta läks sisse koguduse telki.
And inside the holy place,
Ja selles koguduse telgis
this part, he would go past the golden candlestick.
Ta möödus kuldsest küünlajalast.
Now, if you go to Rome, to the Colosseum today,
Kui nüüd minna tänapäeval Roomasse Kolosseumisse
and you walk across the street to the Arch of Titus, it's a victory arch.
ja kui kõndida läbi Tiituse amfikaarest.
Yeah, Titus, yeah. And if you don't mind, it's because this is more important than what I'm saying. And you'll see there on the carving, the Romans carrying this golden candlestick with them as war trophies.
Siis on võimalik näha seal graveeringutes, kuidas roomlased kannavad seda küünlajalga kui sõjatrofeed.
And then here was this altar of incense.
Ja siin on nüüd siis see põletus suitsu
and the table of bread.
Ja ohvrileibade laud.
And then once a year he would open the veil and he would walk behind the veil.
Ja üks kord aastas siis mindi siis selle vahekardina taha.
Now, I'm going to try and put a video on the YouTube page, and I'll try to put links on the other pages as well if you have a connection to the internet.
Ja ma üritan üles laadida YouTube'ist videoid, kui sul on internet, siis
you can look at at an archaeological site.
Ühte arheoloogilist väljakaevamist.
And one of the people that works for I guess the archaeology part of the government in Israel.
Kus siis üks Iisraeli riigi jaoks töötab arheoloog.
And in this video they actually hold a golden bell that's about this large.
Siis hoiab enda käes kullast kella.
And it's made of gold and it still rings.
Mis on kullast valmistatud ja siiamaani kõliseb.
This came from the high priest's garment, the border of his garment.
Ja mis on pärit siis kunagise ülempreestri.
Because he was entering into the Holy of Holies.
Sest kui ülempreester läks kõige pühamasse paika.
And there was a fear that if he was coming in uncovered, in a sense.
Ja siis oli rahval hirm, et kui ta katmata sinna läheb.
If he had broken the law and he hadn't offered his own sacrifice,
kui ta ei olnud enda eest ohverdanud või oli rikkunud,
then judgment would come upon him and he could fall down dead.
Et siis võib tema peale langeda hukkamõiste, ta võib surnuna maha
So
langeda.
history says that they tied a cord to the high priest's belt. So if he died in the holiest of holies, they could pull him out without going in.
Ülempreestri külge köie ja tema jalgade
So he had these bells.
pandud, ehk siis kui
As long as the bells were ringing, everything was
siis
okay.
ta tõmmati selle köiega välja.
So it's a fascinating video. I'll put it on the YouTube.
Kellad olid selle jaoks, et kuulda, et ikka elus on.
But what he would do in the holiest of holies is he would take some of the blood from the sin offering.
Aga mis ta siis tegi seal kõige pühamas paigas oli see, et ta võttis
And he would sprinkle it on top of this Ark of the Covenant.
Ja piserdas seda selle seaduslaeka peale.
As a covering for all the people of Israel.
Ja
once a year.
see oli siis katmaks kogu Iisraeli rahvast.
And this place was called the mercy seat.
Ja seda kohta nimetati armu asemeks.
And God told Moses in the text of the second book of Moses.
Ja Jumal ütles Moosesele teise Moosese raamatus.
That my presence will stay in a sort of a concentrated, visible way right here above the mercy seat.
Et minu kohalolu on tuntav ja kohal selle armuaseme kohal.
So here's all this foreshadowing.
Nüüd on siin kõik see, mis on siis võrdkuju või siis
foreshadowing. It's just a hint of what is to come.
Ette näidatud tuleviku suhtes mingisugune viide.
And after a few thousand years in the New Testament,
võrdkujuna ja peale paari tuhandet aastat Uues Testamendis.
The same pattern is seen in what's presented in the gospel concerning Jesus.
On võimalik näha sama mustrit Uues Testamendis seoses Jeesusega.
So in the first 4 books of the New Testament,
niisiis esimeses 4 Uue Testamendi raamatus,
that tell the history and life of Jesus,
kus räägitakse Jeesuse elust ja tema tegudest.
It presents what one of the writers later in Hebrews calls good things to come.
Siis seal tuuakse välja seda, mida üks Heebrea kirjanik on kirjeldanud kui heade asjade tulek.
Let's go ahead and look in, if you read for me, in the book of Hebrews.
Ja Heebrea raamatus
chapter 8
8. peatükis
and verse number 5, for example.
Salmis 5.
And go right ahead.
Heebrea 8:5 ja teenivad pühamus, mis on ainult taevase kuju ja vari. Moosest ju juhendati, kui ta hakkas valmistama teidki. Vaata, et sa teed kõik selle kuju järgi, mida sulle näidati mäel.
All right, and in chapter 9,
ja peatükis 9,
it speaks a lot more about this pattern.
Räägitakse sellest mustrist palju põhjalikumalt.
So again, if you go to ppetu.net and if you're interested, you can look up these references.
Ja kui sa tahad järgi vaadata, siis piibel.net internetis on
Hebrews chapter 9 and beginning with verse 8, for example, in verse 8 it says this.
Ja siis Heebrea 9. peatükis salmis 8
and verse 9
on kirjas sellega teatab püha vaim, et tee kõige pühamasse paika ei ole veel ilmsiks saanud, nii kaua kui eestleb püsib. Ja salm 9, seda tuleb mõista viitena käesoleva aja kohta, et andid ja ohvrid, mida endisel kombel ohverdatakse, ei suuda teha Jumala teenijad täiuslikuks südametunnistuse
And then let's
poolest.
skip to verse 11, and it says, but Christ, speaking of Jesus, came as high priest of good things to come.
Ja salm 11, aga kui Kristus tuli tulevase hüvede ülempreestrina suurema täiuslikuma tegiga, mis ei ole kätega tehtud, see tähendab, ei ole osa sellest loomisest.
And let's read now verse 12. Not with the blood of goats and calves, but with his own blood he entered the most holy place once for all.
Ja salm 12, siis ta läks sisse mitte sikkude ja vasikate verega, vaid iseenda verega, minnes ühe korra kõige pühamasse paika, saavutas ta meile igavese lunastuse.
And then it speaks about a new covenant.
Ja siis räägitakse uuest
And that's where we get the name Old Testament or Old Covenant and New Testament.
Tuleb ka nimetus Vana Testament ning Uus Testament.
So here we see a parallel
Siin on võimalik näha paralleeli
with Jesus's death, burial, and resurrection.
Jeesuse sünni, surma ja ülestõusmise.
And so this is one of the biggest things that continues to go through the entire text of the Bible from this point on.
Ja see on üks kõige suuremaid asju, mis läbivad läbi Piibli tekstide edasi.
So after 40 years they come to the Jordan River.
Peale 40 aasta möödumist nad jõudsid Jordani jõe äärde.
Moses dies.
Mooses sureb.
And his assistant Joshua leads the way.
Joosua juhib edasi.
He is the one who went up with Moses onto the mountain.
Tema oli see, kes läks Moosesega koos mäele.
But then Moses went to the top of the mountain and said, "Stay here."
Aga Mooses läks mäetippu sealt edasi ja ütles Joosuale.
And he was there for 40 days.
Nad olid seal 40
When
päeva.
he received these 10 commandments.
Kui Mooses sai 10 käsku.
And Joshua was on the mountain, but the people created a golden calf
oli samuti mäe peal, aga samal ajal rahvas lõi kuldse vasiku
as an idol to worship, as to symbolize God.
Enesele ebajumalaks seda ülistada ja sümboliseerida.
Moses comes down with the 10 commandments, and the first commandment says,
ja esimene käsk oli,
don't have any idols, and the second commandment, and don't worship any other gods.
Ära ülista ühtegi ebajumalat.
And he breaks the 10 commandments, the stone.
Murdis puruks need käsutahvlid.
But Joshua was not part of all of that.
Aga Joosua ei olnud osa sellest.
And the whole generation of people have died, but Joshua is one of the elders now of Israel.
Ja kogu põlvkond on surnud ning Joosua
and in fact, he was one of 12 spies, one from each of the tribes, the 12 tribes of Israel.
Ja tegelikult oli tema ka üks nendest, kes oli maakuulajateks Iisraeli.
Almost 40 years ago, that had been sent into the land to take a look and bring back a report.
Saadeti siis sinna Kaanani maale vaatlema.
And 10 of them said, it's an amazing land, look at this fruit we're bringing back, but we can't do this because there are giants in the land.
Ja neid vaatlejaid oli maakuulajaid oli kokku 12.
And the people are too strong, the walls of the cities are too powerful, we can't do this.
10 neist ütlesid, et seal on liiga suured hiiglased ja suured müürid ja raske valutada.
But Joshua and one other man said, we are well able to do this.
Ütlesid, et me suudame seda kergesti teha.
So again, this is an example of faithfulness and obedience to the plan that God gives.
Ja siin on veel üks näide siis ustavusele ja kuulekusele.
And so all these others you never hear about again, but Joshua leads the way now.
Mida Jumal tahab. Ja nendest teistest maakuulajatest ei ole rohkem juttu, aga Joosust räägitakse edasi.
The old generation that had died experienced the parting of the Red Sea.
Vana põlvkond, kes oli surnud, koges Punase mere siis Punasest merest läbi minek.
And they would never forget it. It was so dramatic. They walked through on dry ground because of the wind that had been blowing all night.
Ja nad ei unustanud kindlasti mitte seda kunagi, sest et see oli niivõrd eriline, kuna oli terve öö.
But the same thing happens now, and this is in the book of Joshua now, in your notes. And the priests are carrying the Ark of the Covenant, and they step into the Jordan River, and it parts.
Preestrid kannavad seaduse laegast ning nad sammuvad Jordani jõkke ja Jordani jõgi siis peatub.
This is interesting. the time of year that the text says that they're going across
huvitav on selle asja juures see, et aastaaeg, kui nad jõest üle läksid,
is in the rainy spring season.
on kevadine vihmane hooaeg.
And every year the Jordan overflows its banks. It's flooding.
Ja sel ajal on üleujutused Jordani
It's similar to what we saw about in the Nile River.
Sarnaselt sellele, mis Niiluse jões.
And so they're not just crossing a thin little stream.
Niisiis nad ei lähe mingisugusest väiksest ojakesest üle.
But they were crossing it at its largest.
Vaid siis, kui see jõgi oli oma kõige suurema.
So again, this is so dramatic that they placed stones as a memorial in the middle of this dry river and again on the shore.
Eriline, et nad panid meeldetuletuseks sinna jõesängi kive ja samuti ka jõe äärde.
And they say, if your children ask you in days to come, what do these stones mean, then tell them.
Ja nad ütlesid, et kui teie lapsed peaksid küsima, miks need kivid seal on, siis rääkige neile.
What Yahweh, this God, did for your fathers, for you.
Teie Jumal tegi teie jaoks.
And so they did it in remembrance.
Ja nad tegid seda meelde tuletamise jaoks.
And then they begin a 7-year campaign of conquering the land.
Ja siis nad veetsid 7 aastat vallutamaks Kaanani.
Now I'm trying to remember, did I speak at all about the evil that was done in this land before?
Ja kas ma rääkisin sellest kurjusest, mis seal maal toimus ennem seda?
Well, there's a place in the first book of Moses speaking about Abraham.
Esimese Moosese raamatus on üks koht, kus räägitakse Abrahamist.
And the text says that God tells Abraham, your descendants are going to come back to this land.
Ja seal on kirjas, et Jumal ütleb Abrahamile, et sinu järglased tulevad tagasi sinna maale.
And they're going to, let's take a look, Genesis chapter 15.
Ja vaatame esimese Moosese 15. peatükist.
And verse number 16.
Salmist 16.
This is one of the most common questions that is a good question to ask about the text.
Kõige tavapärasemaid küsimusi, mida küsitakse selle teksti kohta.
And whether someone is looking at the text just as from a scholarly standpoint or as a Christian believer or as a Jewish believer.
Seda teksti vaadata kui kristlasena, juudina või õpetlasena.
They will say, how is it, there's a problem here. How is it that a good God can order his people to destroy other people?
On see küsimus, et kuidas see võimalik on, et Jumal kui hea Jumal käsitleb hävitada rahvaid.
So in this text, the first book of Moses, chapter 15.
Aga esimese Moosese 15. peatükis.
The text says God is telling Abraham that his descendants are going to be afflicted as slaves in another land. Please come. Follow. God tells in the text to Abraham
Jumal ütleb selles kirjakohas Abrahamile,
that your descendants are going to be afflicted as slaves in this land.
Et sinu järglasi piinatakse kui orje.
But in the 4th generation they're going to return to this nation. After 400 years.
Kui saab läbi 400 aastat, siis nad naasevad sellele maale.
And verse 16, in the 4th generation,
siis alles 4. põlvkonnal
they will return here.
Tuleb siia tagasi.
For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete.
Alles 4. põlv tuleb siia tagasi, sest emorlaste süü ei ole tänini veel küllaldada.
There are 2 other references. I won't take time to read them now. If you'd like to, for me to give them to you, come to me after the session.
Teist kohta veel, mida ma praegu ei loe, et võite hiljem seda küsida.
Leviticus chapter 18, verse 25. It's the 3rd book of Moses.
3. Moosese 18. peatükis.
And Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 12.
Ja samuti ka 5. Moosese 18. peatükis.
And here's what was the problem for God in the text.
Ja siin oli siis see, mis oli probleemiks.
The people on this side of the river
Rahvas, kes oli sealpool jõge,
worshipped a god they called Astaroth.
Ülistasid Jumalat, keda kutsuti Asteraks.
The idol of Astaroth had its arms outstretched.
Ja selle iidoli käed või kuju käed olid välja sirutatud.
It was made of stone.
See oli kuju oli kivist valmistatud.
There was a hole here in the body.
Selle kuju kehas oli avaus.
And they would put fire inside this hole.
Ja sinna avausse tehti tuli.
And they would put their child onto the arms of this statue.
Ja selle kuju kätele asetati väikseid lapsi.
Maybe their firstborn baby or any baby.
Võib-olla vastsündinud lapsi.
And the baby would roll down the arms into the fire and be burned alive.
Ja siis see laps, mis asetati sinna kuju peale, rullus mööda neid käsi sinna tuleauku ja üles.
They practiced sexual rituals in their worship.
Nad praktiseerisid igasuguseid rituaale.
And everything that the Jewish God, Yahweh, expressed that he hated, these are the kinds of things that they did.
Ja kõik see, mida Jahve, juutide Jumal vihkas, oli see, mida nemad tegid.
So this is the short explanation for that.
See nüüd on lühidane kirjeldus.
And in the time of Abraham,
ja Abrahami ajal.
Do you remember when I spoke about Methuselah? He had the longest life that was recorded in the text.
Sa mäletad, ma rääkisin Metusalast, tema kohta on möödunud.
And he was a symbol of God's patience and mercy.
Ta oli kõige pikema elueaga ja ta oli Jumala pikameelsuse sümboliks.
Because his name meant when he dies, judgment is coming. And it was the flood of Noah.
Metusala nimi tõlkes tähendab siis see tuleb, ehk siis tuli veeuputus.
So this is sort of the same thing.
See on põhimõtteliselt sama asi.
In the text, Yahweh is telling Abraham, the sin of these Amorites is not complete. It's like there's a cup and it's only half full and I'm waiting for judgment.
Ja siis selles kirjakohas Jahve ütleb juutidele, et amarlaste patt ei ole veel täis, et nende patukulud ei ole veel täielikult täis.
Thank you. It's the end of the day and I'm going fast. I'm excited and thank you. And thank you for your patience. But I want to move quickly. And so they go across and they spend 7 years conquering Canaan.
Nad siis lähevad üle selle jõe ja veedavad 7 aastat vallutamaks Kaanaanimaa.
One of the most famous battles is this Battle of Jericho. It's the first city that they come to.
Üks kõige kuulsamaid lahinguid on Jeriko lahing, mis seal siis toimub.
If you ever travel to Israel and you go to the Dead Sea, then let me see if I can show you actually. Then you'll see this city of Jericho, or the remains of it in the modern city. You'll see it right near here. Not where Jerusalem is, but right near this Jordan River. And this is where they crossed, and they came straight against the largest, strongest city of the whole land.
Ja kui nad läksid üle Jordani jõe, siis nad saabusid kõige suuremasse, kõige kindlustatumasse linna.
Archaeologists have said that the walls were so wide, and you can see pictures of the archaeology on.
Ja arheoloogid on öelnud, et Jeriko müürid olid niivõrd suured,
that the people could practice chariot races on top of the wall. 2 chariots could race. The wall was as thick as a 2-lane road. And the text talks about how they didn't come with swords and try to break the gate of the city.
Ja Piiblist on võimalik lugeda, et nad ei üritanud selle linna müüri väravat maha rõhkuda.
But again, it's a test of obedience and faithfulness.
Mõõkade või mingi muuga, vaid see oli jällegi koht, kus nende kuulekust pandi proovile.
This theme just keeps coming over and over.
Ja see sama asi kordub uuesti ja uuesti.
The people follow the instructions that are given to them by God through Joshua.
Ja rahvas järgib neid juhtnööre, mis Jumal oli andnud neile Joosua kaudu.
And when they finish following these instructions, the walls come tumbling down.
Ja kui nad neid täpselt järgisid, siis Jeriko müürid langesid.
It's presented as a supernatural event.
Ja see on üleloomulik sündmus.
And actually, if you look at the archaeology,
ja kui nüüd vaadata arheoloogiat,
at the time, there are these layers of history in the ground and what's buried.
Siis selle aja kohta on need erinevad ajaloo kihid.
But if you come to the time period when this must have happened,
aga kui minna sellesse ajaperioodi,
then the walls are completely destroyed.
Siis need müürid on täielikult hävinenud.
It was like they had fallen outward
justkui nad oleksid väljaspoole ümber kukkunud.
And become ramps for the armies of Israel to just walk right into the city and take the site.
Neist sai läbipääsu tee Iisraeli armeele, et vallutada Jeriko riiki.
Now, just a short time after Joshua dies,
lühiajaliselt peale seda, kui Joosua suri,
the people enter into this idolatry.
Siis inimesed hakkavad ebajumalaid kummardama.
But before he dies,
aga ennem seda, kui ta sureb,
he gives this famous speech at the end of the book named after him.
Ta peab selle kuulsa kõne,
He repeats
tema nimelises raamatus.
He repeats the history and some of the law.
Ta kordab seal ajalugu ning osa seadusest, mis
and then he gives the people, however many million are standing there listening to him.
Ja
he tells the people
siis ta
this.
ütleb seda rahvale,
He says, choose this day who you will serve.
Et valige täna, keda te teenite.
Will you serve the gods of these people, like the Amorites, Hittites, and all these different people groups?
Keda teenivad amorlased ja hitid ja kõik need teised
rahvad, will you serve Yahweh, the living God?
Te teenite Jahvet, kes
and then he says these words that are famous.
He says,
as for me and my house,
mina ja minu koda,
we will serve Yahweh.
Meie teenime Jehova.
But it's only about a generation that passes.
Aga põlvkond peale seda,
let's see, and the people begin to break the laws.
Hakkavad inimesed seadust rikkuma.
And they enter into worshiping these idols.
Ja hakkavad neid ebajumalaid kummardama.
And so it goes into a cycle or a series of events where Israel falls into what the text calls sin, and they are judged.
Ja toimub selline olukord, kus on Iisraeli rahvas kogu aeg tsüklis, et nad teevad jälle patte uuesti ja uuesti jälle naasevad pattudesse.
The text says that God allows other enemies to come in and start attacking them and causing problems for them.
Võõrastel rahvastel tulla Iisraeli rahva vastu, neid ründama.
Dominating and making them into slaves.
Valitsema ja orjastama.
So the people cry out to their God.
Ja siis rahvas hüüab Jumala poole.
And he hears them and he sends them a judge.
Ja Jumal kuuleb nende palveid ning saadab neile kohtumõistja.
These judges are less about someone in a court and more about a military leader.
Ja need kohtumõistjad on rohkem kui kohtumõistjad kohtus, pigem sõjaväelised juhid.
And there are 15 of them.
Ja neid on 15.
One of them is a famous woman named Deborah.
Ja üks neist on kuulus naine Deborah.
Yeah. And they're not like kings, and sometimes their influence overlaps in time.
Ja nad ei ole nagu kuningad, kes valitsesid kordamööda, vaid nad on ka samaaegselt.
But they lead the people to victory.
Ja nad juhivad rahva võidule.
And then the people begin serving Yahweh, the Lord.
Ja rahvas hakkab uuesti teenima Jehoovat.
And then after a generation or some time passes, they fall back into this idolatry.
Ja kui möödub jälle põlvkond,
Cry out. God sends a judge.
rahva järeltulijad uuesti hakkavad iidoleid kummardama.
And over it happens.
Niimoodi see kordub uuesti ja uuesti.
So I'm just going to give you a highlight of three of the most famous of these.
Ja kolm kõige kuulsamat mõistjat.
Gideon was a man who was so afraid of the enemy that he was hiding somewhere where you normally would not do the work of a farmer. He was so afraid of the enemy
Gideon oli niivõrd pelgas vaenlast,
that he was hiding
et ta peitis ennast
and doing the work of a farmer.
Ja töötas kui põllupidaja.
In a place, normally at the end of the harvest you would beat the grain so that it would separate from the stalk. In a high place.
Kui oli kombeks viljalõikuse ajal seda samust rehepeksu teha kuskil kõrges kohas.
And you would throw the grain in the air and the chaff
kus siis visati
fly away and the grain would fall.
vili koos nende samuste kestadega, ebemetega üles õhku niimoodi, et tuul puhus siis selle sodi viljast eemale.
But he was doing this in a wine press,
siis tema
somewhere low, hidden.
Täis hirmu ja tegi seda veinipressis kuskil madalas kohas.
And
isegi tuult arvatavasti.
And so he has this experience
ja tal on see kogemus,
where an angel, the text says, comes to him
tuleb üks ingel, niimoodi on kirjas,
and says to this fearful man,
ja ütleb sellele arglikule mehele,
"Oh mighty man of valor,
vägev vapper mees,
you're going to be it doesn't say judge, but you're going to lead the people to victory."
sina saadad Iisraeli rahva võidule.
And Gideon replies saying, "But I'm the least of all the people," and he says, "I'm not the one."
Gideon vastab, et aga mina olen kõige pisem kogu rahvast ja ma ei ole keegi.
And for me, this is a funny place in the text.
Ja minu jaoks on see naljakas koht Piiblis.
Because this angel replies to him after his, "I'm not the one."
Sest et ingel vastuseks ütleb peale seda, kui tema pelgama lõi.
And it's almost like he's saying, "Go in this your valor. Go in this your bravery."
Ütleb, et mine oma vapruses.
He's like, he doesn't want to hear anything.
Justkui ta ei tahakski kuulda seda virinat, mida ta siis tegi.
So Gideon puts out the call and 32,000 soldiers come from Israel.
Aga Gideon siis saadab välja selle kutse ja 32,000 sõdurit tulevad tema juurde.
And he says exactly what Yahweh tells him to say.
Ja ta räägib täpselt seda, mida Jahve käskis tal rääkida.
He says, "Whoever is fearful among you, just go home. It's okay."
Kes iganes teist kardab või on peetlik, mingu koju.
And 22,000 of them leave.
Ja 22,000 nendest läks ära.
And only 10,000 are left.
Ja ainult 10,000 jäi
Now,
järgi.
this is not looking good because there are thousands of the enemy soldiers.
Ja see ei olnud üldse mitte hea, sellepärast et vastase väed olid tuhanded ja tuhanded.
And so Gideon is like, "Okay, here we go." But then
Gideon ütles, no olgu siis.
But then the voice comes, "No, this is too many."
Aga sellele järgnevalt tuleb uuesti hääl, mis ütleb, et
test the men, have them drink water.
Seda on liiga palju, rahvast on liiga palju.
And the ones that drink in this way,
ja las need sõdurid siis joovad.
Let them stay and send the other ones home.
Ja kes joovad ühtemoodi, mingu ära, ja kes joovad teistmoodi, need jäägu alles.
So out of 10,000, only 300 remain.
Ja 10,000 jääb järgi 300.
And then it's like, okay, this is just right.
Ja nüüd on see arv õige.
So what they do is they take pitchers that are used as lamps with oil inside.
Ja mida siis 300 sõdurit teevad, nad võtavad neid õlilampide anumaid.
They're lit. They're like a torch or a lamp.
Mis on siis nagu õlilamp.
They have their sword and they have a trumpet. Each one of these 300 men.
Ja neil on mõõk ja neil on ka sõjasarv.
They surround the camp of the enemy in the night.
Öösel nad ümbritsevad vastase väed.
They throw down their pitchers and they break and fire starts going everywhere.
Nad viskavad maha need õlianumad ja see õli sõitib põlema.
They blow their trumpets.
Ja puhuvad sõjasarvest.
And they yell the sword of Yahweh and of Gideon.
Ja karjuvad Jahve mõõk ja Gideon.
And it looks like a huge army with all this fire.
Ja kogu selle tule ja kõigega tundub see kui tohutu
so many people have torches.
Armee.
And each trumpet sounds like it's a trumpet for a different group of soldiers.
Ja kuna nad kõik puhusid sarvi, siis tundus justkui, et seal on tohutult palju salkasid.
And in the confusion,
ja kogu selle segaduse käigus,
the enemy starts slaying one another.
Hakkas vastane iseenda mehi hävitama.
That's the brief story of Gideon. Let me tell you another.
Lühikokkuvõte Gideoni loost.
Samson is probably the most well-known of the judges.
Simson on võib-olla üks kõige tuntumaid kohtumõistjaid.
When he was born,
kui ta sündis,
he was dedicated to this God, Yahweh.
Siis ta pühendati Jahvele.
And his parents made a consecration, a vow, a promise.
Ja tema vanemad tegid tõotuse pühendada ta Issandale.
According to the word of the Lord that they got.
Vastavalt Issanda sõnale.
He shouldn't drink any alcohol.
Mis nad said, et ta ei tohtinud juua alkoholi.
He shouldn't touch any dead body.
Ta ei tohtinud puutuda ühtegi surnud.
And he shouldn't cut his hair.
Ja ei tohtinud oma juukseid lõigata.
It was a Nazarite vow.
See oli
so he had seven. Yeah. He had these 7 locks of hair. Like dreadlocks almost.
Ja ta siis oli üles seotud juustega.
And so he was well known for being very strong.
Ja teda tunti kui väga tugevat meest.
He fought against many of the Philistines, one of the enemy soldier groups.
Ja ta võitles filistide vastu, filistide vägede vastu.
And one time the text says that he only had as a weapon the jawbone of a donkey.
Ja ühes kohas on kirjas, et ta oli ükskord võitlusvahendiks ainult eesli lõualuu.
Now, of course, a sword is about this long, maybe.
Võib-olla mõõk on nii pikk.
The jawbone, I mean, this is very close combat.
Väga lühikene, mis tähendab siis,
and they could not stop him.
Pidi väga lähedal võitlema.
He was causing a lot of damage to the enemy.
Ta põhjustas väga suurt puustust, väga suurt kahju vastasele.
But he fell in love with a woman named Delilah.
Aga ta armus Delilasse.
And she was a Philistine.
Kes oli filist.
And the Philistine kings of the different cities came to her.
Ja filistide kuningad erinevast piirkondadest
and each of them gave her coins of silver and said, if you will give us the secret of Samson's strength.
Ja Delilale kuldmünte ning ütlesid, et kui sa annad meile Simsoni saladuse,
then we will give you these coins of silver.
Siis me anname need kuldmündid sulle.
And so she asked him, and he wouldn't tell her. And asked him again, and he wouldn't tell her.
Ja nii see naine siis üritas seda saladust Simsonit teada saada ja küsis, aga ta ei öelnud seda talle.
And finally he says, if my hair is cut, I'll be just like any other man.
Ja lõpuks ta ütles, et kui mu juuksed ära lõigatakse, siis ma olen täpselt nii nagu iga tavaline mees.
So while he's sleeping, she cuts or someone cuts his hair.
Ja sel ajal, kui ta magas, siis lõigati ta juuksed ära.
And then the soldiers come in and she says, Samson, wake up, the Philistines are upon you.
Ja siis tulid need sõdurid sinna ja ta naine ajab ta üles.
And he rises to fight them just like at other times.
Ja ta tõuseb oma unest, et võidelda nende vastu nii nagu alati.
And the text says that his strength had left him.
Aga kirjas on, et tema vägi oli temast
lahkunud. It was like the power that God had given him because of this promise was finished.
Vägi oli lahkunud ja see tõotus, mis ta
oli antud. So they blinded him and made him a prisoner.
Ja nad sidusid ta kinni, sidusid ta silmad tegid ta
he worked like an animal, grinding in a mill.
Ta töötas nagu loom
grinding grain.
Veskikivi ääres.
And they brought him out one day for a big celebration.
Ja nad tõid ta välja ühel päeval.
All of the nobility and the kings were there in this one building.
Tähtpäeva, kus oli kohal kõik ülikud ja kuningad.
And the text says that while he's in prison, his hair began to grow again.
Ja piiblis on kirjas, et kui ta vanglas oli, siis ta juuksed hakkasid uuesti kasvama.
So he's blind. He comes in, he's being led by someone.
Ja ta oli pimesi juhitud kellegi poolt.
And they're drinking and they want to have some sport. They want to make fun of him.
Ja siis need ülikud, kes seal peol
show him off as a trophy.
Jõid alkoholi, tahtsid mingisugust lõbustust saada tema näol.
And he asks the person who's leading him in, would you put my hands on the pillars?
Ja Simson siis palub nendelt, kes teda juhivad, et nad asetaksid ta käed sammastele.
Then he prays and asks Yahweh to give him strength one last time.
Ja ta palvetab ning palub Jahvet viimast korda veel, et ta annaks talle jõudu.
He pushes the pillars down.
Ning ta surub need sambad puruks.
Recently they uncovered in archaeology digs in Israel, present-day Israel.
Ja nüüd hiljuti tänapäeva Iisraelist arheoloogilist väljakaevamistelt leiti
some kind of royal room.
Mingi kuninglik
and it could have been similar to the kind of room where he was.
Ja see võinus olla sellele ruumile.
These were not pillars like in the Parthenon of Athens, Greece.
Ja need sambad, mis nendes ruumides kasutati, ei olnud.
These were probably pillars made of stones on top of stones.
Sarnased nendele sammastele, mis Rooma arhitektuuris kasutati.
Or even older than that. That made an archway.
Vaid need olid kividest laotud sambad, mis moodustasid sambakaared.
But the text says he pushed them apart and the whole building fell in.
Ja kirjas on, et ta lükkas siis need sambad laiali, niimoodi, et terve see koda varises kokku.
And in his death he did more damage to the Philistines than in his life.
Ja oma surmaga ta tekitas rohkem kahju filistidele kui oma elu jooksul.
I'm not going fast enough. Let me speed up a little bit. But this next man, Samuel,
ja see järgmine mees, see Samuel,
he becomes the transition, like the bridge from this theocracy to a monarchy. That's right here in this poem.
Temast saab sild teokraatiast monarhiale.
Because they were one nation under Yahweh.
Sest nad olid üks riik Jahve
judges helped.
Kus kohtumõistjad käisid
aitamas. But God was like their king.
Aga Jumal oli nende kuningaks.
But the people said to Samuel, who became a prophet and a judge,
aga rahvas ütles Samuelile, kellest sai prohvet ja kohtumõistja,
and a priest,
ja preester.
They said, give us a king like the other nations.
Anna meile kuningas nagu teistel riikidel.
And here's the reference.
Ja siin on see kirjakoht.
And so Samuel is upset.
Ja Samuel oli pahane.
And the text says that God tells him, don't be upset.
Ja kirjas on, et Jumal ütles, et ära ole pahane.
They haven't rejected you, they've rejected me.
Sind eemale tõuganud, nad on mind eemale.
And so he tells Samuel, go and pour oil over the head of this man that I'm telling you about.
Ja siis Jumal ütles Samuelile, et ta läheks ning valaks õli selle mehe peale, keda ta on välja valinud.
And Saul becomes the first king of Israel.
Iisraeli kuningas.
And he comes to a tragic end.
Ja see lõpeb traagiliselt tema elu.
He begins very humbly.
Ta algab väga alandlikult.
And when he's chosen, he says, I'm the least of my father's house.
Ja ta ütleb siis alguses, et mina olen oma isa kojast.
My father's house is the least of our tribe.
Ja minu isa koda on meie hõimust kõige
väiksem. And our tribe is the least of Israel.
Ja meie hõim on kõige väiksem Iisraelis.
He was from the tribe of Benjamin.
Ta oli Benjamini hõimust.
And Benjamin had almost been destroyed in a civil war because of terrible thing that someone had done.
Ja Benjamini hõim oli peaaegu täielikult hävinenud kodusõja näol.
And so, just like in the story of Gideon,
ja samamoodi nagu Gideoni loos.
The idea was God doesn't need the best or the biggest.
Mõte uuesti jälle, et Jumal ei vaja kõige
God doesn't need a lot.
Ei ole vaja väga palju.
He just needs someone who's faithful.
Ta vajab lihtsalt kedagi, kes on kuulekas ja ustav.
And so he starts out faithful and obedient.
Ja ta alustab siis olles ustav ja kuulekas.
But in the end,
aga lõpuks
he breaks the law and
murrab seaduse.
And he tries to kill who is going to be the next king of Israel.
Järgmist Iisraeli kuningat tappa.
And he comes to a tragic end.
Ja tema enda elu lõpeb väga traagiliselt.
But the next king is David, the most famous of the kings.
Aga järgmiseks kuningaks saab Taavet, kes on kõige kuulsam
and he is the champion of praise.
Kes on kiituslaulude või ülistuslaulude siis eestlaulja.
In the biblical text he writes most of the book of Psalms.
Piiblis on kirjas enamus psalmidest tema poolt.
And he's running away from this king before he becomes king.
Ja ta põgeneb ennem Sauli eest aastaid enne kui ta ise kuningaks.
And he has a very difficult long number of years actually.
Ja need on väga rasked aastad tema elus.
And he was a shepherd before that.
Ja ennem seda ta oli karjane ehk siis mitte keegi.
In fact, he wasn't even the oldest son of his father, and he was like the 8th son.
Ja ta ei olnud isegi oma isa kõige vanem poeg, vaid ta oli 8. poeg.
So he was no one.
Ja ta oli peaaegu mitte keegi.
But God again, this example just follows the pattern.
Ja jällegi see sama muster, mis on kõikjal Jumal võtab tema.
That there's not much that's required, just faithfulness and obedience.
Kelle puhul siis ei ole palju vaja, vaid piisab ustavus.
He writes these psalms or songs.
Ja ta kirjutab need psalmid, need laulud.
And he plays this harp.
Ning mängib seda harfi või lüürat või mis iganes.
And they're very emotional.
Ja need on väga emotsionaalsed laulud.
Some of them are celebration.
Osad neist on
some of them are
rõõmsalt tähistamaks erinevaid sündmusi.
Some of them are lamentations. What is happening to me? Where are you, God?
Ja halamised.
And everything in between.
Ja ka kõike muud.
And his songs were sung for centuries, and they're still being sung today.
Ja neid laule lauldi sajandeid ja ka täna lauldakse neid laule.
Actually, Andres and I went to the synagogue here in Tallinn.
Me käisime koos Andresega sünagoogis siin Tallinnas.
It's a beautiful place.
See on üks ilus koht.
It's one of the notable pieces of architecture here in the city.
Ja üks märkimisväärseid arhitektuurilisi ehitisi.
And they opened the book.
Seal avati
and they sang one of these songs.
Seal avati laulude raamat ja lauldi neid laule.
And he takes Jerusalem. His army defeats Jerusalem, and it becomes his capital city.
Kes vallutab Jeruusalemma ja Jeruusalemmast saab Iisraeli pealinn.
And when he dies, his son Solomon becomes the king.
Ja kui ta sureb, siis tema poeg Salomon saab kuningaks.
David brings the tabernacle and the Ark of the Covenant to the city of David, Zion, which is near. It's in Jerusalem today. And his son Solomon builds the temple. The text says that his son has this dream when he first becomes king. And God comes to him and says, "What do you want me to do for you?"
Juhtub nii, et Jumal tuleb tema juurde ja Jumal küsib tema käest, mida sa tahad, et ma teeksin sinu jaoks.
And Solomon says, "I don't want anything for me. I'm not able to be the king without your help. Give me wisdom so that I can be a good king."
Ja Salomon ütleb, et ma ei taha midagi enda jaoks, vaid ta annab mulle tarkust, et ma oleksin tark kuningas.
And God says, because you haven't asked for something for yourself,
ja Jumal ütleb, et kuna sa ei ole enda jaoks palunud,
you will be the wisest man.
siis sinust saab kõige targem mees.
But I will also bless you, and you will be the richest king.
Aga ma samuti õnnistan sind nii, et sinust saab kõige rikkam kuningas.
And so he became kind of the high point of the history of the Jews under the kings.
Ja temast saab võib-olla siis üks kõige eredamaid näiteid ajaloost, mis on siis Iisraeli kuningate osas.
And Israel has 120 years of relative peace under these kings.
Ja nende kuningate valitsemise ajal on 120 aastat rahu Iisraelis.
Saul reigns for 40 years, and David 40 years, and Solomon 40 years.
Kuningas Sauli valitsemise aeg 40 aastat, Taaveti valitsemise aeg 40 aastat.
And by the way, have you heard of David and Goliath?
Ja kui sa oled kuulnud Taavetist ja Goljatist,
there was this giant who was several meters tall.
Oli see hiiglane, kes oli mitmeid meetreid
And he came out when Saul's army was faced off against the Philistine army.
Kes siis tuli, kui Sauli armee.
And he said, let your champion fight me, and whoever loses, our army will serve you, our people will serve
Ja
you.
Goljat ütles, et tulgu sinu armeest nüüd keegi, kes võitleb minuga, ja kui te võidate, siis kui ta võidab, siis meie teenime sinu vägesid, ja kui mina võidan, siis teie teenite minu vägesid.
All of Saul's army was afraid except for David, who was a young man.
Ja kogu Sauli armee oli hirmul, välja arvatud Taavet.
And he said, you come to me. He was allowed to be the one that went.
Ja Taavetil lubati minna.
And he said, you come to me with a sword and a spear.
Ja ta ütles, et sa tuled minu juurde mõõga ja odaga.
But I come to you in the name of Yahweh,
Aga mina tulen
the
sinu
Lord of hosts,
Jahve nimega,
whose armies you have defied.
Kelle vägesid sa oled
And so he takes just
vastu astunud.
He takes a sling.
Ja ta võtab selle
He doesn't have any armor, doesn't have a sword.
Lingu.
And he casts the stone.
Ja tal ei ole ei rüüd ega mõõka, ning ta lingu abil
hits the giant between the eyes,
selle hiiglase silmade vahele,
knocks him over,
mis lööb ta pikali,
and slays him with his own sword.
Ja hävitab ta oma enda mõõgaga.
And that was the beginning of his rise.
Ja see oli Taaveti tõusu algus.
But the height of Solomon's reign,
aga Salomoni valitsemise kõrgaeg,
is this temple.
Oli see, kui tempel valmis.
And it's built in the same pattern as the tabernacle.
Ja seda ehitati sama mustri järgi nagu ehitati koguduse temp. Aga nüüd see oli püsiv.
And next week when we come back,
ja järgmine nädal, kui me jätkame,
we'll talk about how the decline of the kings.
Siis me räägime kuningate langemisest.
And how the people of Israel
ja kuidas Iisraeli rahvas
have a civil war.
Peab läbima kodusõja.
And they're divided into two kingdoms.
Ja siis kuidas jaguneb Iisraeli riik kaheks kuningriigiks.
And the northern kingdom is taken away by the Assyrians.
Ja assüürlased vallutavad Põhja-kuningriigi.
In a war where they're defeated.
Sõjas, kus siis nad langevad.
And the text is presented as judgment of God.
Ja tekstis, kus siis tuuakse esile Jumala kohtumõistmine.
And then the same happens for the southern kingdom. They're taken away to Babylon.
Ja sama juhtub ka Lõuna-kuningriigiga, nad viiakse ära eksiili Babyloniasse.
And we'll speak about all of these famous prophets that lived during this time.
Räägime nendest kuulsatest prohvetitest, kes elasid sellel ajal.
But that's all for today.
Tänaseks on kõik.
So thank you very much for coming.
Ma tänan, et olete
and bring someone with you next week. I hope to see you again.
Ja too keegi ka järgmisel nädalal.